all we know is that the clock is ticking. And what that means is you now have less time left to live and to do anything you wanted to do than when you started listening to this.
Welcome to the Ageless Warrior Lab. I'm BJJ Black Belt and Dirty Dozen member Dave Meyer, here to draw wisdom from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the martial arts and explore how it applies to success in business, relationships, your long-term health, and making the most out of your life.
I know that a lot of you are watching the show, but not as many are hitting subscribe. It would really help to get the show out there, and we'll make sure you get notified when new episodes go live. So please do subscribe, ding that bell, and I'll be honored to have you as part of the community. You may have less time left to live than you think. Now, I'm not trying to be overly dramatic or anything like that. I'm being honest. And this is a really important realization that if you just stick with me for a few minutes, I think I can explain and I think will be important in your life. In martial arts competition, when you have a match, you know exactly how much time you have to do what needs to be done. And there's usually a clock you can look at. Everyone knows how much time is left in the match, and you can gauge your actions and effort accordingly. But in life, we're trying to achieve things. We want to have experiences and we want to do things in our limited time alive, but we don't know how long the match is. We don't know how much time is left. All we know is that the clock is ticking. And what that means is you now have less time left to live and to do anything you wanted to do than when you started listening to this. That's a really very important realization. And unlike in a jiu-jitsu match where one person's going to win, in life, everyone is going to run out of time. And consider this, some people think they have more time than they really do. And you don't know if that group includes you. While some people might be pessimistic, it might be living their life in a way that assumes they're not going to live past 30 or something like that. Most people assume they're going to live to a ripe old age if they even think about their death at all. But some people are going to die younger, maybe a lot younger than they think. There can be tragic accidents and illnesses, and no one thinks that'll happen to them, which is why I say that on average, people think they're going to live longer than they really are. Not to pile on, but for lots of people, their productive years, their ability to do and achieve great things ends years before they even die. People get old and get infirm. I'm just making the point here that you may have less time left to do what you want to do in the world than you think. Now, there are certainly ways to make our experiences of this life, regardless of how long we end up living or not, more full, and to make it feel like it's lasting longer. That's a whole other topic that we could discuss sometime, but suffice it to say that even something as simple as just taking a different path to work every day or exploring new areas of your town can make your day feel more full and interesting. And in that way, slow down your experience of time. If you've ever taken a trip filled with new experiences each day, you know that when you come home after even just several days, it can feel like you've been gone for weeks. That's because new experiences require your attention, and so you're more present and more engaged. You're really more awake than when you are repeating the same actions day after day in your normal routine. This is a good argument for just doing new things all the time, trying new foods or restaurants, doing anything to get you out of your normal routine. But even if you're doing all that, again, I'm sorry to say, you still have a limited amount of productive time left in your life, and it may be less than you think. Remaining aware of your own mortality in this way is central to a martial mindset. Knowing that you're going to die shouldn't make you sad. It should supercharge each day with meaning. So when I'm calling your attention to the fact that you are going to die and you may have less time left than you think, I'm inviting you to wake up and be more present and engaged and deliberate for the time that you are still alive. When I first had this realization was late one night around 1999. I was playing in a rock band in Los Angeles and I was teaching jiu-jitsu. This was before I encountered Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I was living with a longtime girlfriend and I had a day job as a computer specialist at a law firm with a fifth floor corner office. As a 28-year-old guy, I was making good money and I was living a great life. Then late one night, I got a call call that a young cousin of mine had died in a tragic accident that day. I was just shocked. It didn't make sense. When you hear someone who's older died suddenly from a heart attack or something like that, it's terrible, of course. But something about hearing that a young person, just 12 years old, who was happy and literally playing outside her house, suddenly was killed in a freak accident just really shakes you up. And of course, made me incredibly sad. I just couldn't sleep that night. And I ended up picking up a book that I've mentioned a few times in this podcast, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And I read it. And the combination of the thoughts in that book and this experience that I was having where I had lost this wonderful young cousin who had so much potential caused me to realize in a very deep way that life is very temporary and could end at any time. And my takeaway from that was, if there's something you think you're here to do, then you need to do it now, because you don't know how much time you have left. Now, I've always been a do-gooder sort of person. I was raised in a family and in a culture that was really pushing me to volunteer to help others and to make positive change in the world, to help repair the world's problems. So that was always in me. In fact, my goal in playing in a rock band was to make it big, to give me money and a platform to do good things to help the world. But that was always kind of vague of how that would actually happen. And soon I realized that really wasn't a solid plan. You know, what are the chances of really hitting it big in music? I said in a previous episode, our band was really good, but we weren't great. We had talked to record executives, we had professional managers, played in clubs in LA, but it just didn't seem like we were on track to hit it big. And I realized at that time that if I really wanted to help the world with any urgency, since I now knew life can be short, I needed to make a big change in my life. And that's what got me to think through what I wanted to do with my life to make a difference. I was bullied as a kid, and as a result, always championed the less powerful. And I thought a lot about the different types of work I could do for children or for other populations in need. But the one that really resonated with me was a focus on helping animals. I'd always been an animal lover, and so that's what I decided to focus on. We'll talk in future podcasts about how I turned that into a career. But I just want to share that the realization of your own mortality can be a really good inspirational thing. It could be something that causes you to rethink your life and gets you to push forward with the things that you already feel like you should be doing and actually make them happen. Or it gets you to examine if there's something that you're not even thinking about yet that you actually should be doing. And that's what I'm trying to do for you now. Time is your most precious resource, and it's not renewable. If you lose money, you can always make more money. If you lose a friend, hopefully you can repair that relationship or get a new friend or even a new life partner. But time itself can never be replaced. The time you have remaining to live is all you have to work with. And most people don't view it as the precious resource that it really is. So what I'm saying to you is, see your time left on this earth as a precious resource and spend it wisely. When you start thinking that way, you become less patient with things that waste your time. Time wasted is killing you. Don't be the worst killer of yourself by letting time slip away without being who you are meant to be and doing what you are meant to do. This doesn't mean you can't have an afternoon of doing nothing or have mindless downtime to recharge or things like that. But I'm saying that over the months and years, don't be the worst killer of yourself by investing your limited time into things that don't really matter to you. Time is the only currency that really matters, and you are always spending it no matter what. So spend it on something that really matters. Now, here's another way to think about it. Have you ever had a near-death experience where you actually were almost killed or easily could have been killed? Sometimes when people get a bad cancer diagnosis or are almost killed or even think they were about to be killed, it causes them to reevaluate their life and really think about what's important and what's not important. People who've gone through that will tell you it's a profound experience. It can be really empowering for people to give them the will to do things that they really want to do. But why do we have to wait for that cancer diagnosis, or why do we have to wait for the near car crash to have that realization and refocusing? Here's an exercise you can do if you're not driving right now. Imagine you're driving in a car or walking on a street later today. Everything's fine. You're thinking about what you need to do and who you're going to see, and it's just a perfectly normal afternoon. Then out of nowhere, there's a car careening towards you with no time for you to react, and bang! You are smashed into. There's suddenly incredible pain, people screaming around you. You're barely alive, and you hear a siren, but you're slipping, and you can't talk, and you know it is all over. Just imagine that if you can. Really, really internalize it. Imagine the feeling of how you would feel in that moment of knowing that this is it. It's all over. You can't talk to anyone and your life is now finished. Now take a deep breath. Congratulations. Magically, you've been given a second chance, a reprieve. The bad thing didn't happen. This is the best possible situation because you've been given the awareness of your mortality without having to actually go through that crash or get that cancer diagnosis. So what are you going to do with this new lease on life? This amazing second chance? Are you going to change anything? Will you live your life more purposefully? Will you call to reconnect with someone or just say you love somebody? What will you complete that you haven't completed? Now that you know your time can end at any moment, what will you do with your life to give it more meaning? I was just 28 years old when I got that phone call and had that realization, and it changed my life. It led to a life of deep meaning and helping people and helping animals. So what do you want to do with this most precious resource that is your time left alive? I talked in a previous episode about how you're more likely to achieve something great, more likely to get to the top of Mount Everest, if you say that's what your goal is and you set a timeline to do it. We all have vague ideas that there are things we want to accomplish, but what I'm inviting you to do right now is to think specifically about those much more seriously and start to make a plan and really start to make it happen. To quote a song by Bill Shatner, yes, Captain Kirk, that I'll link to in the show notes, live life like you're going to die because you are. Here's a quality of life test I use sometimes. Are the things I'm doing today or dealing with today worth remembering? If they are, that's great. Then stick with it. Beautiful. But for most people, when they really think about it, there's something more that they actually want. So you want to understand, what are your goals? What is it you're trying to achieve? What is success in life to you? A lot of people would say, well, I want to be happy. And I know that's of course true for me. I want to be happy, but happiness isn't a goal. It's a state of being happening over time. It's a path, right? You can't achieve happiness because happiness is a way you are as you move through the world. There's a lot of information on how to foster happiness in yourself, and we won't go into that now, but that's not a life goal. Hopefully you can be happy in every moment, regardless of what you're achieving or not achieving. So you could say, all right, fine. I want to be prosperous. I want to make money and have nice things or have fun things. I would say it's not that you want to have a nice car or want to have a nice house. It's that you want the feeling that you get by having a nice car or the feeling you think you'll have when you have a nice house. But we all know that there are plenty of rich people who have lots of possessions, but they just aren't happy. People think the things are paths to this experience they want. They want the experience of joy and contentment, but that's not from the possessions. It's a feeling that exists in you between your own two ears. It doesn't depend on having something in the physical world. That's why there are people who have much less in the way of physical things, but they're very happy in their life. The definition of being rich is feeling like you have enough. You can be objectively rich and not feel like you have enough, or you can be objectively fairly poor, but feel like you have enough and be happy. So again, is there something else that you're trying to achieve in your life? Now you could say, well, maybe there is something more I want in my life, but I don't have time to make this happen because I'm just too busy right now with other things. To which I would say, the things that appear important to you in the short term often are not important at all. They're what you're doing today, and your mind makes them important because they are what you're doing, but you're not doing them because they're important. Will what you're working on now matter in a year? Will you even remember it? Obviously, not everything you do every day can rise to that. But in terms of what you're generally doing in your life right now, will you remember it in a year? Will you remember it on your last breath? My friend Tim Ferriss in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, says, lack of time is actually lack of priorities. And I believe that's certainly true. Doing anything is a sacrifice, meaning you're not doing something else. If you order one thing off a menu, you didn't order another thing. If you decide to do one thing today, you didn't do the other thing. So to make the choice to achieve what you want to achieve, maybe you need to do less. Maybe you need to start saying no to some things in your life to open up the space to start saying yes to the things that you need to be doing. When I first encountered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was actually looking for something new to advance my fighting skills. I felt that I'd gone about as far as I could in my style of Jiu-Jitsu, and so I was looking at immersing myself in Thai kickboxing. But right then, I met the Machado brothers, and I had to make a decision because I couldn't go deep on two new arts. And so I made a decision at that time not to pursue Thai kickboxing and to go all in on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That was a sacrifice. But that doesn't mean I can't now start Thai boxing. So choosing one thing over another might just mean prioritizing what you do first. But I also think people, myself included, can suffer from what I call the drug of mediocrity. The feeling that things are good enough. Why strive for something better or great when what you have isn't great, but it's okay? But that's a recipe for not achieving your potential. And my dear friends, I beg of you, don't die with your potential intact. If you've ever rock climbed, you know that the grips and spots for your fingers and toes can be very tenuous. You're constantly looking for a better spot to put your hand or your foot to keep you moving up. But now and again, you get a spot on the wall where you can grip solidly with your hand, and that's called a bucket. Finally, you can stop shaking and you can just hang out for a little bit and rest. But sometimes the bucket can kill the climb, which means it's hard to let go of the bucket, because once you do, you're back to only those tenuous places to put your hands. You've mentally anchored yourself on what it feels like to have this great handhold, and now none of the other holds you can reach will feel good enough by comparison. But you have to let go of that comfort to keep climbing. And that's what happens when something is not great but comfortable in your life. You can't let the bucket kill the climb of your life. And sometimes that means letting go of a job that's okay enough, or frankly, a relationship that's okay enough. Sometimes you have to let go of something comfortable and okay to achieve something great. And that often means taking a risk for a while. So if you're happy with what you've accomplished and where you're headed in your life, and you're not settling for something that should be much better, not stuck with the drug of mediocrity, then great. And if you did that imagination exercise and thought, no, there's nothing I want to change in my life beyond what I'm doing right now, then fantastic, you're right where you should be. But if there is something inside of you, something that says, there's something else I want to accomplish, something I want to achieve, or something I'm here to achieve in my limited time on this planet, then I want to help you discover that and help make it real. Ask yourself, what would an enlightened me do right now? You should arrive and act in each moment as the best version of you in every way. And for me, that starts with asking myself the right questions. We'll talk more about that in the next episode. But for now, I'll leave you with this. If you've ever been hiking and encountered a rattlesnake, which I have many times, if they're upset or scared, their rattle is snapping back and forth really quickly and making an incredibly loud, almost hissing sound. It's hard to describe just how loud it is. And it's hard to take your eyes off the rattle because it's so loud and it's shaking right in front of you. But the head is silent. And that's where the danger is. The head is the thing that's going to spring forward and bite you. And this is like life. Unimportant things are the rattle, keeping you distracted, while death is silently waiting to strike. My friends, don't be distracted by the rattle. Life presents you with things that feel important, but they're not. Death is waiting to strike you, and it's waiting to strike at the people you love. Find your purpose now and move towards it. Do, create, and be something worthy of this sacred gift we call life. It's a gift that you were given. You didn't earn it, and it has to be returned. You just don't know when. You hold this gift of life in your hands, but it's slipping through your fingers each day. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. It's a sin not to enjoy this gift and make the most out of it, to ask yourself the right questions, to be sure that you achieve what you're here to do. Your life is your book, and you're writing the story every single day. The next pages are always blank, and the pen is in your hand. And my friends, the clock is ticking. On the next podcast, we're going to talk about how to find that life purpose and how to make it happen. I really look forward to that. If you found this episode useful, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and leave comments wherever you're listening or watching, and I'll read them. Also, please like and share. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, please review. That would be really helpful to spread the message. And I will be back next week with more lessons from the lab. In the meantime, keep developing your strength, your wisdom, and go out and do good in the world.